it going, everybody? This is the Stimulus Check Hub here to give you your daily stimulus check and unemployment benefits updates and latest information. If you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. A like and a comment are always appreciated. Also, if you wouldn't mind sharing this with your friends and family, because I'm sure they would also like the most up-to-date information on their stimulus checks and unemployment benefits available anywhere on YouTube, which is what I try to provide here on this channel.
So as we are aware, Senate Democrats are wishing for a holiday gift in the form of approving President Joe Biden's domestic spending package by Christmas. But unfortunately, there are some major obstacles ahead of the Democrats. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia seems like he would be more inclined to hand his party and the American people a lump of coal instead. According to reports, the West Virginia Democrat is expressing skepticism to his own party of whether or not they'll be able to pass the Build Back Better bill by the end of this year. Unanimous GOP opposition to the Build Back Better bill is anticipated. However, Democrats must get all 50 senators on board if they want to approve this package. Manchin is simply not committing to this legislation. He is suggesting that more work needs to be done to iron out the finer details. He specifically said, quote, "I wouldn't have any idea how I'm going to vote until I walk in." Quite suspenseful. We truly don't know which way he is going. But this is critical because it means that your money is in jeopardy. Millions and millions of families across this country have been counting on those monthly child tax credit payments that have been going out ever since the summer from the original American Rescue Plan that was signed back in March. The payments didn't start going out until the months ahead, as there was some delay from the IRS. But so many families, especially with the holiday times, are counting on this money to put food on the table and provide gifts for their family. And if these payments are going to cut off abruptly, well, this could spell out a great deal of trouble for a lot of these families. Manchin's reluctance to this bill is the complete opposite, the total antithesis of what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, had envisioned originally. He's hoping and wishing that everything will be wrapped up and passed before 2022 in order to hand Biden a big victory going into the midterms. 2022, as we know, is a major midterm election year, and depending on how long Manchin wants to drag his feet, these debates and negotiations could very well go into next year, and it would make it a lot tougher for Democrats to campaign and tout their accomplishments when they've only accomplished so much. Democrats are fully aware, though, that these negotiations could feed into the new year, and are already preparing to do so. But again, this abrupt cutoff, this lapse in payments, could mean tens of millions of families will not be able to afford basic necessities such as rent, groceries, childcare, and supplies. But the good news is that the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS, is still expected to deliver the final child tax credit payment on December 15th, and then families will collect the other half come tax season next year. According to one expert at the Urban Institute, he said, quote, "No question that it would be a blow to lower income and middle class households. Folks are depending on this money and it's helping them. It has become a pretty significant piece of family household budgets." And that's a fact, because families have not received a stimulus check in a very long time, unless you're still counting on your plus-up payment that we talked about in our last video. This is the only money that's coming in as far as stimulus, and it is a great deal of income, especially for lower and middle income people. It does make up a portion of the money that they're using to basically survive and have a roof over their heads. The social safety net, as part of the House bill, currently does include that enhanced expanded child tax credit payment for another year, meaning that you'll still receive those payments for another year, and Democrats and President Biden even want to see it go further than that. But at least for now, we could hopefully count on this House bill, if it does pass in the Senate, for another year, and that would give you another year of payments. And yes, this means it would provide up to $300 a month per child ages 5 and under, or $3,600 annually. And if you have children between the ages of 6 and 17, families can receive $250 a month as scheduled, just like these families have been receiving for so long now. And that also equates to $3,000 annually if your payment is $250 a month. It would lock in the ability for the vast majority of American families to get the government cash every month, regardless of whether or not they file taxes, because these payments are fully refundable and would access the lowest and poorest Americans in this country So that is why these payments are so vital, especially for the most vulnerable. But if Senator Joe Manchin is willing to commit to a piece of legislation, would it include the child tax credit? Is he in favor of it? Well, we haven't heard too much from Joe Manchin. He's left us in a deal of suspense. He said, quote, that the child tax credit laid out in the House bill, he called it, quote, a work in progress. So that raised the prospect of changes to that measure. And so Joe Manchin here is really jeopardizing a lot of families. And unfortunately, being a Democrat, this could really put the Democrats in trouble in the midterms and ultimately basically be a prophecy for what can come in the 2024 election. Joe Manchin is the only one we truly have to worry about right now, as well as Kyrsten Sinema, but other Democrats are fully on board, like Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. He told reporters this week about the possibility of a sudden lapse in checks to families. He said, quote, I think it's extraordinarily important to keep this program on track, so he is in favor of renewing it. Wyden had added that it was the, quote, overwhelming view of Senate Democrats that is, quote, priority business to pass the Build Back Better Act this year. So he's still hopeful and optimistic that this bill could be passed, and yes, with the child tax credit. Kyrsten Sinema, though, as well, is throwing a monkey wrench in the works to the Democrats' vision. She had just told CNN recently this week that she was negotiating in, quote, good faith with other Democrats and not in public. So we don't really know her stance, but it's probably not good. And now it is possible the IRS could move swiftly, though, to prevent the lapse in payments by mid-January, because the third wave of $1,400 direct payments started landing in bank accounts within days of Biden approving the stimulus law earlier this year. So let's say that the bill doesn't get passed until early January. Well, it's possible we can actually still avoid this lapse with no delay because of how fast the IRS could access Americans' bank accounts and send out those checks ASAP, as soon as possible. That is where the social safety net side, the investment into the American people specifically, that side of the bill, that is where that stands right now. The infrastructure bill has already been passed and signed into law by President Biden, but let's make some predictions. Do you believe the Democrats will get it done in time for Christmas, or do you think it's going to feed into next year? I think at this point, as where we are right now, I think Democrats are prepared and could already see how these negotiations are going to spill over into 2022. But maybe they could pull off that miracle. I don't know what's going to happen. What do you think? Let's make our predictions down below in the comments. I'm also curious if you currently receive the child tax credit payments. Maybe you know someone that received these child tax credit payments, and they're very beneficial. They're benefiting millions and millions of American families. Statistics and studies have shown that these payments are providing a true helping hand, a real lifeline to so many people and parents, and it has really stopped them from diving and spiraling right into poverty. And so it is vital that we do continue these payments, especially with the new variant spreading and the uncertainty ahead of us with the virus. We truly don't know what's going to happen, but I think it would be very beneficial for these Democrats to, in fact, renew and extend the child tax credit, because it's really the only thing they're going to be able to campaign on if they can get.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Like and a comment are always appreciated. Also, if you wouldn't mind sharing this with your friends and family, because I'm sure they would also like the most up-to-date information on their stimulus checks and unemployment benefits available anywhere on YouTube. Have a good one.